Welcome back and thank you for joining us on this second hour. My name is Abdiaziz. Hashim. My co-anchor this morning is Lucy Mwaura. We are talking about the changing face of the land justice system. We do have a great panel from the corridors of justice as well as lawyers. And finally, we do have a bishop with us in this particular session. They are none other than, let me start on my immediate left here. It is Elizabeth Ndungu, the Vice Chair of the Nairobi Law Society. Elizabeth, good morning and welcome.
Good morning to you.
And the gentleman in the middle, that is a Honorable Justice David Mwangi, a judge of the Environment and Lands Court.
Good morning.
And thank you for coming.
Yes.
And then finally on the farthest end is none other than Edwin Kimani, a bishop.
Edwin Kimani.
Yes.
Yeah,
thank you so much for making time for us. And before we start off our conversation, we'll be looking at some of the multi-sectoral approach to land justice to improve it and ensure that it is accessible to this particular justice when it comes to land matters. It is a matter that is near and dear to many Kenyans. And now a little bit of graphics that we're playing for you on our screen is that the Environment and Lands Court case backlog reduced by 44% from 20,867 cases in 2017 to 2018 in the financial year. We do have also to 11,665 cases that were reduced from a period of 2021 to 2022 financial year. Now the performance, what it means is that over 100% case clearance were conducted rate annually. That is the first bit. On the second bit about what the court has been able to achieve is in terms of that despite these achievements, there are outstanding challenges at the corridors of justice. The court has a significant number of cases older than 10 years. The Environment and Land Court has over 800 cases with estimated value exceeding to 800 billion. A number of the cases concluded by the court have progressed to the Court of Appeal, meaning that they are still stuck in the justice system. Another unique dynamic in Nairobi is that there is a metamorphosis of the case, and even the judge here will be telling us, because those cases, as much as they have completed it, another party will come to the corridors of justice with a similar matter that they have to listen. And of course, that is the changing face of what the land justice system means. Those are the outstanding challenges before the corridors of justice. This will be our conversation for the next 1 hour or so. Let me start with a judge. Judge, thank you once more for making time for us. So far, we've seen cases that are before your court, which is the Environment and Lands Court. In a year, just put it in perspective for our dear viewers, how many cases do you receive, if you're aware?
In 1 year, we receive over 1,000 cases. Yes, on average.
On average.
And kindly allow me to clarify a point. The 800 cases over 10 years.
Yes.
Are not in the land court in Kenya.
Yes.
They are in the land court in Nairobi only.
Only. Okay.
Nairobi only.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's so many even for Nairobi. So in terms of receiving cases, so you receive more in Nairobi compared to other counties. Is that what you mean?
Definitely. Nairobi is the epicenter of litigation, as my learned friend here will confirm.
Yes,
I do confirm.
Yes. We've just even heard the terms "my learned friend" here, senior counsel. Let me go to this to Wakili here. Wakili, in terms of those cases you have seen, the judge has just expounded on it. Those many cases, especially from the capital itself, going to the corridors of justice, you're a litigant. When you go to these court cases, or if some of your colleagues go to the court cases, is it accessible and is it easier for you litigants as well as your clients to get justice from the corridors?
In some cases, okay, you know, it all depends with what easier is. It's easy to actually access the court in itself, but in terms of the duration it takes to have your matter resolved, that's an issue we have really had as, of course, the advocates in this country and even the citizens of this nation. Yes. So in terms of duration, not so easy. But accessibility, yes, it is very accessible.
Before I head over to Bishop, let me head over to the judge.
Yes.
We're talking about some of the significant achievements that the courts have been made. Initially, we did know that the Environment and Lands Court division was there. Before, they used to go to a division in the High Court. So with the introduction of the Environment and Lands Court, has it even reduced the case backlog in terms of cases that comes in terms of land?
All right, thank you very much. Now, I wish to tell the people of Kenya that the Environment and Land Court is no longer a division of the High Court. It is an independent court on its own. Created under the constitution that the people of Kenya gave unto themselves in the year 2010. So when we talk of the superior courts of Kenya, we now talk of the High Court, Environment and Land Court. We also have the Employment and Labor Relation Court. The three are courts of equal status. Above them, we have the Court of Appeal. Then after that, we have the Supreme Court. The Environment and Land Court came into existence in the year 2012. And the statistics that you have just displayed demonstrate what the court has been able to do. As I have said, the 800 cases that are on the screen that are over 10 years are in Nairobi. In the year 2012, when the court was being formed, the matters that were over 10 years were over 6,000. So in that period of 10 years, the court has been able to reduce the backlog from 6,000 to 800 as at that date of that report. I can tell you, from our last meeting in January, the 800 cases have now reduced to about 550 cases. And one of the reasons we are here is to tell the people of Nairobi that from Monday, the 5th day of February 2024, we are launching what we are calling Expedited Land Justice Working Group. And one of our intentions is to clear this backlog entirely. We are changing our approach. We are involving all the stakeholders. I am happy Bishop is here, representing the religious institutions. The Law Society, our key stakeholders in justice delivery, is one of the members of the working group that will be launched. We have every other representation from all the sectors, from all the people involved in land matters, because we want to change the paradigm shift. We want this backlog of matters over 10 years to be a matter of the past. Our promise to Kenya, and especially to Nairobi, because I am here to speak on behalf of the Environment and Land Court in Nairobi. Our promise is that in the next 2 years, the oldest case in Nairobi will not be more than 3 years.
Thank you so much for that clarification. And we just heard there will be an Expedited Land Justice Group that will be launched on Monday 5th, which is on 2024, which will be on Monday. Now, a consumer here, given that we do have a we have a lawyer, and finally we do have a judge, but a consumer here. Bishop, you have a flock. These are some of the issues that come before you. As a bishop, do you think a multi-sectoral approach from what the judge is talking about will solve some of these issues that are dogging the land sector?
Yes, true. In fact, even the church, as we speak today, one of the areas that we discuss, especially with the flock, is how to invest in land. And the challenge is that most of the members that we serve, they have experienced is the court cases that have delayed for many years. Also the church itself, don't forget the church also, we look for public land to develop. And what has happened is most of the properties, especially which had been allocated for churches like in Nairobi, most of them are taken over and sold by the councillors. So we have a challenge in terms of also expanding into development. And another thing that we have found also with especially with our flock is that value that has been held in investment in the land, and especially for the cases that has been there for 10, 20 years, that is denying that owner of that land to develop or even an inheritance, because we look at land as a parcel and part of the inheritance that is given by God. So the minute you deny them by delaying the cases in the courts, that means the next generation will not be able to inherit. And that is a value that is being lost by many people in the church today, by also people in the marketplace. They cannot even go to the banks and borrow. And we've been talking and saying within the church fraternity, can we bring in an investment plan? But most of those properties, especially for the poor people and the people who are in church, they own properties, they cannot develop. So we have a situation whereby the holding back of giving justice to these land cases has actually affected the flock in so many ways in terms of depression. Most of them are coming to churches looking even for the high cost of putting up those cases in the church. And what the judge has just said, a multi-sectoral approach involving the church, because we are the ones who nurture that soul when it is punctured, when it is hurt, when it is in pain, because the lawyers are too expensive. So most of them are looking for an avenue to deal with the church. So the key issue here is, and I would request the judge, if you can actually put in the church is also part of the pillar of that, that will be good, because we have issues that will need to drive that not only from the perspective of the soul, but also an investment.
In fact, kindly allow me just to show you and demonstrate how central religious organizations are in what we are going to do. And by religious organization, I mean all of them. We want them to be mediators. We want to involve them as mediators. So one of the things we are going to do, and that we undertake to do in the working group, is to have the church identify for us people from amongst themselves who will be trained as mediators to help us in solving some of the matters. Because it becomes very embarrassing. Some of the matters before us are between siblings, brothers, sisters, even mothers and their sons. I believe, I honestly believe the church can help us. And the church, the other religious groups, Muslims, Hindus, they can help us in resolving this. Yes.
As an alternative justice avenue.
In fact, we do not want to call it alternative. We want to call it appropriate.
Yes, appropriate.
Because it is appropriate way of sorting out that kind of dispute.
Okay, Elizabeth, you can respond to what the bishop is saying. You're too expensive, especially in this current time. But the other issue is that you have seen among the challenges that are before you, especially the court that our dear friend here heads, in terms of the issues that come before the courts, they might take time, but some residents even opt to resubmit that particular case in a different form. Even if the courts rule on that particular matter, they will come back in another form. So you as litigants, what are you trying to help those clients of yours so that if Judge David today sees a case that he saw 10 years ago coming up again, how do you expect him to handle that?
Okay. I will start by, of course, responding to Bishop. Well, we're not too expensive. Actually, most of the people who say we are too expensive are people who've not come to visit a lawyer. But we're not expensive. That's just a myth that is out there. Then the other thing that we face from the Kenyan citizens is that when they're getting into land transactions, they choose to do it themselves. Now, the moment that, for lack of a better word, there's a dispute, that's when they run to the lawyer. That's when they run to the lawyer. And actually, most of these disputes can be avoided by, at the first instance, just before you get into a transaction, visiting and involving the services of a lawyer. We are actually very affordable, Bishop. Then, secondly, in terms of people bringing the same matter back to court, it's a problem we're having. It's a problem we have discussed both at the Court Users Committee and even at the bar bench committees. It's a problem that cuts across the board. As lawyers, the best thing that we can do is bring it to the attention of the court that indeed this matter was before either the brother or the sister, a different judge, and the issues that are in this case, the subject matter is the same. And therefore, it ought to be struck out or dismissed. That is what we do. But now the process of, bringing that application, it's just a case of indiscipline. I will call it a case of indiscipline. And for people not feeling satisfied, if it's on appeal, it's okay. But just starting a fresh case over the same facts, over the same subject matter, it is just wrong. But the law provides for a solution whereby you can say that this matter is actually either sub judice, meaning that it's in another court, or it's res judicata, meaning it has been heard and previously determined. Then in that case, the judge will confirm that the court actually rules that then it can't continue, it's actually dismissed.
Okay, let's put a cap to that conversation because I need to take you somewhere live, and then we'll be coming back with this conversation, this interesting conversation that we're having here in the studios. If you have to talk to us, reach out to us on our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1, at Abdiaziz Hashim 1. We'll be sampling some of your views as well as questions and be posing to our dear guests this morning and this afternoon. This morning still, it's 11:18. But right now we are talking about the changing face of the land justice system here in our studios, and with us is Elizabeth Ndungu, the Vice Chair, Nairobi Law Society. We do have Honorable Justice David Mwangi, Judge in the Environment and Lands Court, and finally we do have Edwin Kimani, a Bishop. And of course I was about to go to the Bishop before I go to the Judge. Bishop, we were talking about, we've just heard from the elaborations that were made by Elizabeth and the Judge in terms of making these systems easier. So as a church, how are you going to help? Because we've just heard from Judge David is talking about these disputes being between relatives, family members. We've even seen some people even going to the extent of killing their neighbors or their loved ones for a piece of land. So what has the church done to address these issues? Because they are societal issues at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you. I think the first thing is answer the lady lawyer that what I meant by being expensive is relative to the incomes that people are generating, especially in the rural areas. Because if you look at the per capita income in the rural areas and the kind of fees that have already been set under the Law Societies Acts, it is very expensive for them. And I repeat, it's very expensive because we look at how much those households earn. So we would look at maybe when they are launching the working group to look at that situation of fees so that we can accommodate especially the very poor people who have been unable even to go to courts because of the expense, even filing documents. It is now the digital platform has come. But before they had to go through long distances to come in and file documents. So if there is a way that we can create a fee structure that fits even the lower group, that would be very good. Now, in terms of the interventions that the church is making today, is to counsel. We are counseling the people who are in crises, the families that are fighting. We are talking to them in terms of to understand that inheritance, how that inheritance can be monetized, how it can work for all of them, how we can unlock that value which is in the courts and help them even to develop, to borrow, and also to share that inheritance among the families. Yes, it's a challenge, but at times you find is what I keep on saying is like a demon in issues of land. But we know we have handled quite a number of cases, and they're understanding the value of that land and how it can help the families going forward and their children's children. So the interventions are there. We're speaking to them. We handle small seminars, small conferences. We call lawyers. We call people, let's say, from the KRA to discuss with them and to show them how do we monetize that value, and how do we exit from those problems of disagreements on division, on who is who, on matters of the will, because we also have challenges are basically on the will itself. The way the wills are structured, the way the wills again are contested by the members of the family, the way even the legal fraternity also, joins and works and in the changes that certain families want the legal documents, the wills to be changed. So we're also talking to them about how do they legalize the document called a will and what is the effect of a will. So we have those interventions. We are talking to them. We are pulling them. We're putting them and saying, look here, this is an investment opportunity you're missing in this season that you can pool even within a family, build and still share the revenues, the profits. So instead of taking a third or 50% of 100, you can build that and have an elephant and still share and be able to recover, even increase the value that you recover from an investment. So that's a new paradigm shift that we are talking to them. That why sell, why divide a quarter of an acre, let's go to a bank, let's raise this asset, let's build, let's generate, build 410 apartments. You take an apartment which is the value of that, of maybe small pieces of land that you can have. So we are discussing with that with the members. We are looking also at the church, also building up those investment structures that will be, you know, we're looking at the legal interpretation.
Yes.
That they are not just a chama, it's a legal vehicle that will pack that asset so that the members that are fighting can see value, and you are able to unlock that value for them to benefit. Yeah.
And of course, honorable judges, you respond, even the judiciary itself.
Yes.
It's an independent arm of the government. At the end of the day, you do have the responsibility of ensuring even our societies that you serve at the end of the day are in order. Recently, the Honorable Chief Justice Martha Koome last year launched a social transformation through access to justice, which is STAJ, which was, of course, entitled to the Milimani Environment and Lands Court. Let's say, for example, how has it worked for your courts as well? And as you respond to those issues, these emotions even ran high to the extent, even if you give an order, people do not comply with it. So how has the court also addressed those issues in terms of the enforcements of the court orders themselves?
Okay, now, I first want to appreciate the bishop. I wish all religious leaders were as enlightened as he is.
Thank you.
And we would not have as many disputes coming to court if the church, if religious organizations took the approach that the bishop here is taking. In terms of educating the people, in terms of informing the people, I want to tell the bishop that the kind of judiciary we have today is not the old kind of judiciary. Feel free to even invite judges to churches, to mosques, to speak about these issues and tell the people where the issues, where the challenges are. That way, we shall be helping our society, we shall be helping our people to benefit from this resource called land, because as it is, I do not think we are benefiting from this resource owing to the huge number of cases that are pending and disputes that are not even in court. By the way, some of the land disputes manifest themselves not as land disputes. As you had pointed out, some even come as criminal cases. But if you look at it, if you scratch the surface, you get that it was only a land matter. The dispute, the quarrel, was about the sharing of land or boundary disputes. So, if we are able to address this issue, we shall be addressing very many social challenges, and we shall be helping our society to live in peace. In terms of legal representation, I want to say that the Law Society of Kenya has a pro bono scheme. Pro bono means they are able to offer free services, all subsidized legal service to those who cannot afford. The government also has a pro bono legal scheme, which is not well developed. I think it is still developing. It is not a very old scheme, but we hope by and by we shall get there. But it is important to note that anyone who is not able to afford a lawyer can approach the Law Society, who will refer them to a panel of pro bono lawyers. There are also a number of non-governmental organizations, like an example is Kituo cha Sheria, offer this kind of legal service to people who cannot afford. Yes, legal fees has been, it is an issue. And one of our recommendations when by the way, the Environment and Land Court now has two divisions. We have the Land Division and we have the Environment and Planning Division. When we were launching the two divisions, the Chief Justice promised to look into issue of legal fees to ensure that they are affordable. She cannot do that alone. She needs to consult a lot with other stakeholders in the justice sector through what is called the National Council for Administration of Justice. So we hope and pray that that is an issue that will be addressed. In the law also, we have what is called, if a person really came to me and said, I'm not able to pay legal fees. As a judge, I'm authorized, having access to say, yes, I excuse you from paying legal fees.
Okay.
But that is a very rare situation.
Have you ever done it in your practice?
I don't remember doing it, but it is in the law books.
Okay.
Yes, it is in the law books.
Okay.
Yes.
And of course, given that, Elizabeth, you're on the ground, before it goes to Honorable Justice David, before it reaches his table, this is the issue. Do you advise those clients properly, or what are those root causes you have witnessed as a lawyer before it heads over to the court that is fueling land disputes in the country?
Okay. First and foremost, thank you, Bishop, for the role that the church is playing, especially even in educating the citizens out there.
Yes.
I can attest to that, because even in my church, I have been able to teach people on succession and matters to do with land. And also the other day, I had a bishop give me a call, a bishop from Mombasa, and he told me, I have one of my congregants who called me and they have this issue, but and they asked me to pray for them. However, I feel they need a lawyer more than they need.
More than prayers.
But anyway, back to the question. From my experience in the past, say 2-3 years, most of the land disputes are on boundaries, as the good judge has said. We have issues to deal with tenancy. That is a hot dispute in Nairobi. It is actually one of the biggest chunk of disputes in the, I want to believe, in the land court. Tenancy. We have matters to do with, of course, trespass into people's lands. So those are the ones that are forming the bulk of issues. And of course now the disputes from succession, but now those they go mostly to the family court, ideally. But under the environment and land court, the disputes, the tenancy, land grabbing is there, fraud. Fraud is also one of the big ones. Fraud has been big, and of course we have issues of titling, because you find someone got a list from the city county several years ago. There's also double allocation. So those are some of the disputes that have actually come to our offices. Yes.
In fact, she has said it very, very well. One of the, we had promised, or had been promised, that one of the panelists here would be from the National Land Commission. Because, and probably from the Ministry of Lands. Because, can you imagine, only 23% of Nairobi has titles. Only 23% of Nairobi has titles. Yes.
Has titles, yes.
That is a key source of disputes. Yes. The process of titling brings closure to disputes.
Yes.
And in identifying the stakeholders we want to work with, we have identified the National Land Commission.
Yes.
We have identified the Office of the Chief Land Registrar, who are supposed to be issuing titles and registering. In any event, you can only confirm that the land is yours when you have a legal document
to show that.
You can only benefit fully when you have a document which you can take to a bank and use as a security, which you can take you to your circle and use as a security. This is one of the key areas that we have to look at. Elizabeth has also identified a number of issues. In our concept, we have divided Nairobi into 5 areas.
Yes.
We have the Eastlands, Embakasi, Jiru. We have this other side of Kibera, Karen. Then we have the other side of Babadogo, Kasarani, Mweki. Then we have Westlands, Runda areas. Because of the nature of disputes, they bear the same characteristics. We are surprised that we have adverse possession in Karen. But just as I said, scratching the surface a bit deeper, you realize the reason is because the leases in Karen are expiring. Yes. We have a lot of dispute in town center, the center of Nairobi.
Yes, CBD.
CBD.
Yes.
The kind of dispute we have here now are, my lease of 99 years has expired. By the way, many of us keep our titles in our under the mattresses, or we hide them. We forget to read that it was a lease, and a lease has a limited time.
Yes.
It will expire one day.
True.
So you need to be conscious. The law provides that 2 years before it expires, the ministry should write to you. The Ministry and National Land Commission should write to you to remind you. I am not sure that happens. But even if it does not happen, as the leaseholder, you also have an obligation to tell them, I will be applying for a renewal. So when it happens that the lease has expired and you have gone quiet for 2-3 years, there are some other intelligent people who specialize in this. Those are some of the issues.
I was even getting to that point, Honorable Justice. We're talking about the sanctity of even the title deed itself. These days it has been lowered to the extent anybody can manufacture. You just go here to town, a section part of the town, I don't want to mention it. You just manufacture those title deeds. And then they end up in courts. You give it to lawyers at the end of the day, trying to defend a case that is no longer there to begin with, because even the nature of that particular document to start with has been manufactured in a way that is not legal. Let me use that word. So, Bishop, have you had these experiences, especially when it comes to land grabbing issues, especially in the capital? We have witnessed a number of issues. We've seen people picketing, we've seen people going to the courts. From the divisions that the judge is talking about, even dividing the sub-counties within Nairobi itself, have you had these issues?
In fact, even they do it in certificates. I mean, you've seen politicians also with fake certificates. So the issue is how can we develop that security system, especially within our title documents? And one of the proposals that we had is to create a land bank. And that land bank also has a digitization title, so that even if the original title gets lost, then the digital title that is kept within a land bank is held in custody in that land bank in trust for the owners. So changing it, and we have the blockchain technology, is like a smart contract. So that smart contract, you cannot change it. So if we can bring in within this working group that kind of a solution, because we are now in a digital age, and what we can do with that kind of a fintech solution within the land bank is the digital title itself can stay for years and years, because it is a smart contract between the government and the owner. So if we can implement that, it is easy to capture and also to completely eliminate the issue of fake titles. But you see, even if we put in the security things, we talk in currency, in passports, in certificates, they are still ahead of us. So, but a smart contract, cannot be broken. You cannot enter. Is through the blockchain technology. And what you are doing with that blockchain technology, it's easy to use that digital title, to mirror it. Even for purposes of investment, you can create a bond using that smart contract, and that is the direction we need to move. It's not just okay, we'll do the survey, we'll bring in the issues of the cases out of the courts, but then we'll still have the problem of fake certificates and fake title deeds. The smart contract, fintech technology. We have a digital solution. And a land bank.
Because the first person it gets to, it's Elizabeth before it even heads over to the court. So do you have systems in place to ensure that these particular documents that I'm taking to the judge here are legitimate documents at the end of the day, to prove that this person is the owner? Do you verify before? Because I'm sure there are legal repercussions even if you're a lawyer and you're protected by the Constitution. If you produce a fake document, you're liable to that situation as well.
Yes. When Bishop here comes to my office for a land transaction, the first thing that we do is a search and due diligence generally.
Yes.
We have to ascertain that the title is actually indeed in the lands registry. We'll get an official search from the lands registry that confirms the ownership. It also confirms whether the property has any encumbrance to it, because if you miss this particular step, you may actually buy a property and find that the moment that it comes to you, you find that you sent a demand letter for land rates of around $1 million because you did not do due diligence even at the county to just find out whether there are any debts owing to it, to find out whether the owner is indeed the owner. You know, we can even go to an extent of finding out whether this ID, you know, is actually original, you know, to find out if, because we've had a case where the person, you know, came with an ID, etc., but we find they were two different people sharing a name.
Yes.
So we have had such cases. So we do something called due diligence. And to talk about something that Bishop raised on going digital, at the lands office now we have Atisasa. It has actually gone digital. In Nairobi, most transactions, if not all, are being done through Atisasa. All landowners were required to do something we call conversion and to actually do some bit of georeferencing for the apartments, etc. And actually now the titling is through the Atisasa. It did cause us trouble for some time. It's still a bit slow. It has caused a lot of delays in transactions, but we believe we are getting to the final steps of it and streamlining the process. Yes.
And of course, in terms of digitization, thank God we have the judge here. We have heard even the Chief Justice talking about digitizing services. You can be able to go to the judiciary portal, file your case at the end of the day and get your results or get the judgment or even how the case is progressing. You can see through the digital platforms. But as you launch this particular group, are you going to address these issues in the rural areas? You do know not so many people do have access to these digital platforms at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you. As I said, for now, this is a program for Nairobi.
Yes.
The epicenter
will be Nairobi
of large disputes. But we hope to spread it out. First and foremost, to counties with urban areas. Because some of the challenges we have identified that have led us to think of changing approach are prevalent in urban areas. I am sure what I'm dealing with here in Nairobi, it's also being experienced in Mombasa. It's also being experienced in Nakuru, Kisumu, the town areas.
Yes.
It is very interesting. And Bishop, we say God works in miraculous ways. We are happy that you came today. He is talking of solutions. Now, remember we have said only 23% of Nairobi is titled.
Yes.
So even if we were to digitize and digitalize, for now we can only do for 23% of Nairobi. If Atisasa is going to work, it will only work for 23% of Nairobi.
Yes.
So we still have the other over 70% of Nairobi to deal with. And we hope the stakeholders we have put in place will come up with ways, we shall be able to come up with ways of expediting that. Nairobi has a very interesting history. In Nairobi, we have people who hold titles under various legal regimes, under various laws.
Yes.
There are people who hold titles that are called freehold. There are people in Nairobi who hold titles that are called leaseholds. There are people within Nairobi who hold titles that are called absolute proprietors. In other words, some were registered under the previous Government Lands Act. Others were registered under the RTA, Registration of Titles Act. Reconciling that, harmonizing that, is now the transition that is preventing us from going digital. That is preventing us from going into the promised land. Again, our other key stakeholder is the Nairobi City County Government, who took over from the former City Council. I was listening to Elizabeth when she was explaining due diligence. Yes. In some matters, it is not possible to do due diligence because of this. There were double, triple, 4 times, 6 times allocations. I have seen people, 7 people, claiming one title. It reminded me of a verse in the Bible where it is said that 7 women will be fighting for 1 man, saying, can we be identified with you? 7 claiming out of. So some of these problems are endemic. And it is only the stakeholders, like the issuance of the allocation was a city council. We need all the records, all the original records, so that we can verify, yes, this is a true owner. Yes, I know it will not be easy, but with our stakeholders here, we shall do whatever it will take to ensure that we bring sanity in Nairobi, that we bring security of title. We want every property owner in Nairobi who has a title can walk and say and sleep soundly knowing my title is secure and nothing can happen to it. So that you can even use it to borrow. Yes. We want the Nairobi is the capital city of the country. 28% of the GDP of Kenya is generated here. Yes. We want investors to come. When they buy land, when they lease land, they should have that piece, that the title, the contract is secure.
Bishop, as you respond to what the judge is saying, and Elizabeth as well, does it speak to our morals itself as a country and as a people? If we are going to that extent of even killing our loved ones, displacing our relatives and neighbors, does it speak to our morals itself? What does it say about our morals?
That should not happen, because I think the issue here is understanding what is land, what is the gift of land, and how do I move ahead with the gift of land? Because if you look at biblically, land is a gift of God. Yeah. So if we look at land as a gift of land or a gift of God, then our morals will be the standards of God. That is something for inheritance. Yeah. But God has given us the right, to increase, to multiply, and to grow that piece of land. So if our mindset changes, in terms of approach to pieces of land within families and within members of a family, that whatever piece you have, however small it is, you can increase that value. Then because the issue is ownership and value, don't forget ownership and value. When you own, then you have value that you can monetize, that you can pass on to the next generation. But if we look at that from an investment point of view again, is how do you utilize that piece of land to build value? And that value will be adequate for you and for generations. I think then the issue of small families killing each other, fighting for small pieces of land, that they'll never even be able to use. And we also bring in, especially if we develop, how do we create that fractional titling from the master title? And I think the lawyers and the judges here, because that is key, so that even if you are on top of a building on the 10th floor, you still have value, you still have a title, because it's a fractional title of the master title, and you are able still to do create value out of it as a family member. You can pass it on to the next generation. So we can demystify that by understanding how we monetize land, how we build on it, and how that gift can create wealth.
Given that now we're entering the final leg, let me give you at least a minute each so that you can give your final remarks. Let me start with Elizabeth here. Elizabeth, as much as you have dealt with these cases for a number of years, what are some of the solutions? Even the judges here and the judicial system itself is currently listening to you. What are some of the solutions that could be put in place to ensure these cases are reduced?
Okay. In the Land Justice Working Group, which is what we are here to talk about, and actually, we are trying to find solutions by involving different stakeholders. Number one, at the Lands Office, that is the Ministry of Lands and the National Land Commission, all loopholes need to be sealed. All loopholes need to be sealed, and also at the City County, all loopholes need to be sealed in terms of the system of titling and actually verification of title, etc. Number two, these over 70% of lands that do not have titles in Nairobi. Actually, the government should actually consider working on this as a matter of urgency.
Yes.
So that we at least know that we're not dealing with the issue of, you know, the basic thing, which is having a title, because without a title we can't even verify who is the owner.
Yeah.
So at least that should actually be resolved. Then morality. Kenyans, I am urging you, you know, most of us have become very greedy. Most of us want to be unjustly enriched. And it's what is causing the rot. That's where the fraud is coming in from. That is where the issues of families killing each other over land is coming from. So we need to change our ways as Kenyans as well. We need to go back to the basics. Because, you know, if we are all moral, then we wouldn't have issues of corruption, issues of land grabbing, and such.
Thank you so much. Yes. Judge, kindly, we're out of time.
Thank you very much. Number one, I'm happy to be here, KBC. Yes.
Welcome.
Yes.
And this is the first time I'm hosting a judge because the demeanor that you have in the courts and currently here are totally different.
As I said, this is a new judiciary.
Yes.
And the Chief Justice blueprint talks about social transformation through access to justice, meaning even the judges are accessible.
Yes.
One of the things we hope for as a working group, as we conclude our assignment in the next 2 years, is to come up with a checklist that will even help the common man. When you're buying land, what do you look for? When you have a dispute involving land, what is it that you should do? What is it that you must have or that you must file in court? Then I want to say that prevention is better than cure. The church, the religious organizations, our stakeholders, including KBC. Yes. And we thank you for even this opportunity to speak to the people of Kenya. This is one way of preventing disputes before they arise, because it is within our powers. And when a dispute arises, it is good that we embrace alternative justice system. And as I said, it is not necessarily alternative, it is appropriate. It may be the appropriate way of sorting out dispute. Finally, there is a crisis of climate change. We all have a responsibility to respond, to mitigate. By doing land justice, we shall also be doing climate justice. Because one of the things we hope to do is also to conserve and protect ecologically sensitive areas, which are everywhere, including Nairobi. We need to protect them as a way of mitigating climate change.
We're literally being kicked out of the studio.
Thank you for the invitation today. And three things we should look at, especially with this working group, is harmonizing the rates and the rents, especially the practice of assessment and valuation, and also the unpaid bills, especially within the Nairobi County government. Number two is also to look at the banking system, because most of those properties, as you talk, the 23%, maybe 50% of them are held by the banks. And that is also causing huge problems, especially within the families. The third thing and the final one is let's create a portal, you know, where people can come in. People can see what is happening. People can also bring in their contributions to this working group. So if we create that working group, it's a launching pad also for investments in this nation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That is Edwin Kimani, a bishop, and next to him is Honorable Justice David Mwangi, Judge of the Environment and Lands Court. Thank you for making time for us. And then finally, we do have Elizabeth Ndungu, the Vice Chair of the Nairobi Law Society. Thank you for making this conversation enriched, and hope our dear viewers who are watching us right now, you have gotten something about the changing face of the land justice system. And you've just heard from the judge. There will be an expedited land justice working group that will be launched on Monday the 5th, and of course to improve some of these teething problems that are within in the judicial system so that they can be faster and accessible to you, dear viewers, and affordable as well. That marks the end of our conversation this morning on News Check on this, the last day of the month of January 2024. My name is Abdiaziz Hashim. My co-anchor has been Lucy Maura, but it seems they have changed. But at the end of the day, don't go too far. Lensa Odingo, do you understand? It is Lensa Odingo. And then finally, my colleague Gladys Mungai is up next with Kurunze Mashinani. Don't go too far. The conversation continues. And do remember that AFCON Iko KBC.